So a lot of people are broke because the relationship that they've got with money is broke. And this ain't going to be one of those personal development videos about money mindset and all that stuff. Hopefully it'll just give a bit of a better understanding about what money is and what currency is and the difference between the two. Historically, what money has been in relation to what we've got going on at the moment around the world, because the system that we've got is not set up for the average person to create wealth. It's just not set up that way. I mean, if we just take for an example, inflation. Now we get told that inflation is circa 2.5–3% a year. The target is 2%, which that's what they come out with on the news, and that's what the Bank of England, Bank of America, and all this, the Federal Reserve rather, all those guys, that's what they come out with. But the reality is that if you look at the relevant statistics, that the currency supply, notice it's not really the money supply, the currency supply on average increases 7 to 8% every year. So every single pound, dollar that you save is being devalued as and when these centralized organizations create more of the thing that you're trying to save. Now, most people get taught just to save cash, save a load of money for a rainy day and all that type of stuff. But the reality is that when you're doing that, particularly if these savings accounts are only paying, I don't know, let's say 3.5–4% as I speak today, there or thereabout, you might get a little bit higher. Then you're still, technically speaking, if you look at the rate of currency debasement, which is to say the amount of money printing, you're still losing out 2 or 3%, and that's without so-called inflation on top of it. So if they're saying inflation is, let's say, 2%, to be kind, and currency debasement is 7 to 8%, you're looking at circa 9 to 10% devaluation of your savings or the cash that you've got in your account. So that's just one example of the system, as it were, being against the guy who goes to work, goes to college, goes to university, gets a safe 9 to 5 for the next 50, 60 years. You're not going to get freedom and create freedom for yourself by doing that, because it's inherently the antithesis of wealth creation. But if you look at that rule, that is a rule of the game, right? That's what we've been playing for hundreds of years. If you know that rule, then why wouldn't you get into good debt being mortgages, debt to acquire assets that increase in price over time, over and above the rate of currency debasement / inflation? Why wouldn't you do that? Because the inflation erodes the debt away. So let's say you've got £1 million worth of debt across real estate, and the real estate's increasing on average 5–6% a year, and you're getting monthly cash flow off the asset. But that £1 million worth of debt in 20 years' time will have eroded on average, let's say 10% a year across the board, if you average it all out. I mean, and if you look historically at property prices, you're not far off the mark there. Then you'll notice that the value of the property isn't actually going up, it's just that the price is going up. So why wouldn't you get into good debt and allow inflation to erode that debt over time? Because essentially that's what governments do. Governments get into tons and tons of debt to the degree that if we did what the governments do, we'd probably get done for fraud or at least serious mismanagement of our cash, you know. So when you understand the rules of the game, you can start playing the game better. And it doesn't mean you need to become the next Elon Musk or anything like that, although, you know, why not go for it? But you'd play according to the rules that have been given us, and you'd take advantage of that. And also, I get asked this quite a lot. The system, as it were, is quite it's inverted evil. Some people would say it sort of draws energy out of people's time and life force and whatever. And I agree with that. But if you make a ton of this cash, if you can attract to yourself millions in this currency, you can do a hell of a lot of good with it as well. You can sort of set up companies that you want to set up. You can do non-for-profits if you want to go down that route. So learn the rules of the game, play the game. Don't moan about it and tell everybody how wrong everything is, because it is, but you might as well play by the rules. Just make a load of money and do what you need to be doing. Set up companies that have purpose and inspire you. You're not going to do that without capital. So I've covered inflation there a little bit. I've sort of touched on why you want to play by the rules of the game, make a load of cash and set up things that, with that capital that you've drawn to yourself, you can actually make things of value to you and inspire you. But also historically, let's look at the rules of the game before. So money used to be gold and silver or other precious metals of the time. You might be trading in copper and whatever else. But, 500 years ago, it was gold and silver. Now, today, you can still buy gold and silver. In the UK, silver, you have to pay 20% premium with VAT tax. But gold you can still buy. It's still underpriced in my opinion. And silver's still very underpriced in my opinion. But that isn't what we've got today. Our fiat currency standard is not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. There isn't anything of real value sitting behind the fiat currency. It's essentially an agreement between everybody, fiat currency, and essentially an agreement between everybody that it's worth something. But in reality, it isn't worth a thing other than what we are all agreeing. Now, the argument could be, well, so is gold and silver. True, but there's something there with gold and silver. There's something that's stood the test of time. It's durable, it's portable, all these qualities that money is meant to have, it does have. Whereas fiat currency, it doesn't. It isn't a store of value because it goes down over time. So, technically speaking, the dollar, the pound, the euro, all these fiat currencies that can just be created and printed into oblivion. When I say printed, all it means is like dots on a screen nowadays. But what I'm saying there is that there is no store of value in cash. So having more than, whatever feels safe for you in your bank account, just for a rainy day, as they say, there's no point in having that in a bank. There's no point. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority here in the UK, they protect your money or cash up to £85,000 in your bank account. Now, I don't have £85,000 in a bank account because I don't see the point in that. I might as well get it out to work, get it in assets for the reasons that I've spoken about. Get it into assets, get it into business if you're trying to build a business, get it into precious metals, get it into Bitcoin, get it into all these different, yes, Bitcoin speculative, but get it into all these assets that over time are increasing in price. Whereas most people just put it in a savings account, think they're doing the right thing at 5% per annum, 6% per annum tops, I'd say. When in reality, they're losing money because the currency is being debased more than the savings rate is giving you in return. Again, learn the rules, learn how the game is played. The wealthy don't own a load of cash unless they're timing the market and they think there's a big crash, financial, correction coming, where they can sweep up assets for cheaper than what they are today. Now, yeah, granted, that does happen. I think Warren Buffett's sitting on a large cash position now. I can only imagine, because obviously he's a very successful guy, that he's expecting a correction somewhere where we can put that capital into assets that have dropped in price from where they are today. That's all I can imagine. But for somebody like me, I mean, I'm asset rich, but I consider myself cash poor. I suppose that's relative. Other people would say you've still got more cash than me or whatever. Granted, but relatively speaking, compared to the asset base I've got and compared to the cash that's sitting in my account, I'm very asset rich and very cash poor. And that's a choice because I don't see the value in having cash sitting in a bank account. I don't see it at all. And because the business that I'm in real estate and investing in general, I've got a stock portfolio and crypto and whatever. I borrow capital from banks, from wealthy people who lend their money out. I borrow from those people to acquire assets that will increase in price over time while also giving a cash flow, which is property, right? And I'll increase the value of those properties by refurbishment, by turning them into a different type of property. You might do HMO, might turn it into a semi-commercial from a commercial, which increases value. I'll then remortgage that debt and then hold it for 20, 25 years as the debt's eroded over time, as you've paid that debt down, if that's your strategy. And in 20 years' time, you'll be a wealthy person. And this isn't rocket science. This is just realizing what game's been set out and how to manipulate that game for your own advantage. It's no good sitting there moaning, complaining, being a victim, because it's the same for me as it is for you. It's the same for everybody here in the UK, at least, and the US. They've got similar laws and legislations, things like that. And the governments around the world are all different. You can still, to relative degrees, you still learn the rules of the game. They're not that different, and play the game. So people are broke because they don't know how to play the game properly. And if you look at the education system, for example, the education system isn't set up to create entrepreneurs and investors, more investors than entrepreneurs, because it's more scientific. But entrepreneurs are very creative people. The school system doesn't encourage creativity, it encourages conformity. And in that conformity that's reflected in college, university, 9-to-5 job, put your money away for a rainy day, get yourself a pension, invest in stocks and shares in your pension fund, blah, 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 all that stuff. And that used to work. In the mid-20th century, the boomer generation, that used to work, but we're seeing a radical shift now. And there's that much information out there online. You don't have to do that anymore. You can set up a side hustle for 20, 30 quid a month on like an application, subscription-based application now. It used to cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds for these organisations to get the technology that we've got today on our iPhones or Androids. There's just no excuse whatsoever. So learn to play the game, learn about money, learn about currency and the difference between money and currency, learn about gold, silver, Bitcoin. I know I get a lot of flack for saying Bitcoin because it's a scam and whatever else, it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, maybe I'll be proven wrong over time, but it's been 15 years and I've been hearing the same thing for that period of time. And nothing has changed. It's just increased in price exponentially. So learn about Bitcoin. You might be wrong. I might be wrong, but education is important. Learn about the laws in your country surrounding taxes. Educate yourself. All this stuff we've got access now on. It's in our palm of our hands. No excuses. Get at it.